Good day, everyone. My name is Dr. Michelle D. Clark, and I'm just a small town girl with big time dreams who God has definitely shown his grace and his mercy, and he has saved me from some life threatening things. And I'm super excited that he did. Why? Because it's a Terrific Tuesday on purpose, because I said so, and you can too. And also because normally I would say that we have our fast break at 8, but tonight, for one night only, we have an epic broadcast. First of all, this is the inaugural show where we have our Tuesday talks with Dr. Clark. Normally it's Miss Clark. So now we have Dr. Clark on, right? But in addition to that, what's the best way? I said, what's the best way that I can really come out with Dr. Clark as a bang? And let me tell you something. With Father's Day being right around the corner, coming up this Sunday, the best way that I felt that I could add some flavor and add some education and information, and of course, keeping the fun and fundamental with you all is by featuring fathers. So today's episode we're going to be talking about for our Tuesday talks with Dr. Clark, LMSW, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, is the Fatherhood edition. And I am so excited. I'm beyond excited. Listen, if I could do a backflip and a cartwheel and not have to go see a chiropractor afterwards, I would definitely do that. But because I can't and I won't, I will do that with bringing them on because I want to make sure that we have every ounce of time that we have available to showcase these fabulous 5 men. So, what I want to do is, well, first of all, let's take a quick break for station identification. One for our hydration. So we'll do that, right? So let's everybody get hydrated. 1, 2, 3, go team. All right. Awesome. In addition to that, if you're watching this on Facebook or LinkedIn, make sure that you like this post, heart this post, support this post, share this post, so that way you're not the only person who's going to get a chance to see this inaugural episode of the Fabulous Five Fathers for our Fatherhood edition. And of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe, click the little bell, so that way you'll be in the know when we drop new content, just like we're doing today. Take a moment to share this out with somebody. Please share this out. Do not be selfish, right? So, all right, without further ado, and of course, you can interact. So if you want to use the chat, you want to tell who you are, where you're watching in from, please do that, and we can give you a proper shout out. Other than that, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Make sure you share this with somebody else, so then that way they too can capitalize on this epic episode. One night only with the fabulous 5 gentlemen that I have, who are professionals in each of their own verticals, who are doing the dang thing as fathers, standing up and defying what some of the negative stereotypes of men are out there. So you guys are going to see this. So without further ado, I've done enough talking. Let's go ahead and let's bring out our fabulous 5 gentlemen that we have here today. All right. So you all, we have with us today on the panel, super excited. We have Mr. David Pinkston in the house, David M. Pinkston in the house. We also have Mr. Bobby Jackson in the house. We also have Mr. Gerald Rogers in the house. We have Dr. Ed C. And we also have James J.T. Thompson in the house. Welcome, gentlemen. Can you hear me okay? You can come off mute.
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you so much for having us.
All right, cool beans, cool beans. All right, you all. Well, first of all, how is everybody doing this evening? How are y'all doing?
Doing good. I'm doing good. Can you hear
All
me?
right, cool. Yes, yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Yes, yes, yes. Awesome sauce, awesome sauce. So, okay, listen, you guys. So, just a quick, I'm talking to the audience now. So, I told everybody to have themselves muted in between so that way we won't have any feedback coming off. So, these gentlemen are taking excellent directions, right? So, what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and get into the questions. So that way each person can come off and answer. So, I just want everybody to go around and just explain like who you are, what you do, and let the audience just really feel you. And if you want to share a little bit about, marital status, how many kids you have, super fantastic. So, who would like to start first? On everybody speak at once. Who wants to get us started? You all are true gentlemen. So how about I'm just going to go in fashion of where I see you on the screen, Mr. Pinkston. You are up first.
I figured that I was first. I just should have just went on first anyway. So
That's all right. No
everybody, thank
worries.
you
You're a
so
gentleman. Let's
much.
go.
Yes, I am. But thank you for having me. I'm just excited to be with you, a sister, and all these amazing men that I'm just going to be able to meet. But my name is David M. Pinkston, but I go by the name of DMP Speaks. I'm an empowerment speaker. I'm a board certified Christian counselor, and I am a family restoration specialist, which AKA is a family coach. I come to grow and rebuild family dynamics. I love what I do. I believe in the family. I believe in reconnecting the family. So I do all that I can. I also work with individuals, but my bread and butter is the family because I love being who I am. I'm a husband of one wife. I have one son. I don't call him my I don't use the word stepson. I've been in his life since he was about 3.5, 4 years. That's my son. That is my son. He will be my son forever. We want to have more children. We will. But if somebody asks me who's your oldest, he's going to be my oldest. But I'm just glad to be here. I don't want to take up too much time, but I'm excited to hear from these other brothers. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Awesome sauce. Thank you so much, Mr. Pinkston. Very well spoken. And I love the fact that you don't differentiate when you say that's your child. You've been in his life. This is your child. And I'm sure he feels the love and feels the inclusion as a result of that. All right. Thank you so much. All right, Mr. Bobby Jackson, you're up next.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's exciting to see all the people in the chat. It's exciting to talk to everyone here. So, my name is Bobby Jackson. I am just a young entrepreneur who believes in changing the face of finance. I come from Jacksonville, Florida, where the music is loud, the cars are lifted, and drama is a way of life. It does not take an economist to know that there weren't many financial opportunities there. And if there were, they weren't legitimate. You were either moving that in a paper bag or you were getting that done off of the books. So I didn't have too many role models, too many examples of how to build a business. So being where I am today has been an extraordinary experience. I started out in the military with 11 years as a United States Marine, where I did data analytics. From there, I transitioned into the civilian space as I studied in college entrepreneurship with a concentration in finance and economics. I now study at Harvard Business School, and I'm also building out an incredible company as we speak. I work as a chief financial officer for SaaS companies. If you don't know what a SaaS company is, that's software as a service. So those founders are building out incredible businesses, and we come in on a CFO basis to help them out. I too am a father of 5. So I think I might have the most children here, but we'll see. I've got 2 boys and 3 girls. My wife and I have been raising our family phenomenally. I also have a blended family, much like what Mr. Pinkston will be developing in the near future. 2 biological children and 3 non-biological children that we're going to talk a lot more about as the day progresses. But that is who I am. What I come here to do is shed light on how it's been as a father, what it looks like in business, and how CFO roles, business, military experiences, and being a husband have all shaped my life and journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bobby Jackson. Very, very enlightening. And I can't wait to dig in more because we definitely want to know how your background is shaping you as a father and also as a spouse because there's some juggling that has to happen there. So we're going to get into that, you all. All right. So thank you so much for that, Mr. Bobby Jackson. All right, Mr. Gerald Rogers, you're up next. I think you may be a little delayed. Gerald, can you hear me okay?
Awesome, awesome. Before I get started, can you guys hear and see me clear? I'm a little staticky, my internet connection.
That's all right. No worries. We can see you now. See you and hear you loud and clear. You're good to go.
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Can you guys hear me? No?
Yep, we can hear you. Uh-oh, we think we lost him. Okay, so he'll be back. He'll be back, you all. And that's okay. That happens, right? This is live, so that can happen. So all right, we're just gonna go ahead and then go to Dr. Ed C. Dr. Ed.
All right. Hey, I'm Dr. Ed, and I'm just like a geek kid who was shown a little bit of mercy by his grade 7 French teacher. I grew up in the northeast hood of Calgary, next to Pine Ridge, and you don't have to be a Calgarian just to know why this community was nicknamed Crime Ridge. And it was really creativity. Creativity got me out of my slump and led me to my PhD in user experience and artificial intelligence. I've worked over 15 years in education and technology, and I helped 2 companies get acquired: Smart Technologies by Foxconn and NuiTech by ClearTouch. So I like to say that I'm semi-retired. What I'm focused on right now is a little company called AI Parenting. Our approach is to teach children about why AI is important. What I often say is your children may never write a line of code in their lifetime, but they will train an AI every single time they use the internet or use any online service. So you have to know it. It is an absolute requirement. And so we do kind of like a hybrid learning approach. We build like little robots, like this little elevator here. And then the kids, and we talk a little bit about AI. And so that's part of the fun that we do together. So thanks for the opportunity. I have 2 kids myself, 2 boys. And so in the process of trying to teach them about use on the internet and understanding AI. And what I mean by AI is, to me, AI is just power. It's just power on the internet. And so just understanding that, I think, is a crucial skill. And so I figured, well, I'm teaching my kids about this. I might as well teach others as well. And so I'm excited to be able to share today. Thanks, Michele.
You're so welcome, Dr. Ed. Thank you so much. And that is a big topic, huge topic going around nowadays about how AI is impacting not just our children, but also the workforce at large. So it's definitely conversations that we would like to delve a little bit more into here as well, in light of fatherhood. So, all right. And now we have James JT Thompson in the house, sir. How you doing this evening? Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do.
Yeah, I'm doing well. And blessed. I've learned so much in the first 5 minutes of this show with these talented and gifted folk on the line. I'm James JT Thompson, a resident of Rock Hill, South Carolina, co-founder of Big Woo Radio, also a community activist, happily married to my soulmate, Miss Courtney, and I have 2 sons and 1 godson, and definitely feel the experience of what it is to raise sons in this world, in this life, is a different move from when I was coming up. So to say that you have to employ a little bit more savvy, strategy, and wisdom is an understatement. But glad tonight to be a part of the panel and looking forward to contributing some of the gems that I've learned. Also, I've been a 27-year veteran of working with kids and adults with special needs and disabilities. So I bring a unique perspective because I also see it from that point too, of how families react to, those things as well. So looking forward to the panel conversation tonight.
Awesome sauce. And we are definitely glad to have you as well, Mr. Thompson, in the house. So thank you so much. And I know when we spoke and we had conversations, we were talking about the fact that we both have the special needs background that we had that has shaped us as parents and as people. So definitely look forward to talking a little bit more about that as well. All right, welcome back, Gerald, to the house. Welcome back. I know the internet has not been kind to you, so hopefully we can put some good feels and good vibes out there for the internet to continue to be kind to you. So at this time, you can go ahead and tell a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how many kids you have.
But
So
first, I want to say the devil is a lie, and they will hear all 5 of these beautiful men tonight, including myself. I'd hop back into my laptop. Sorry for that, guys. But
no worries.
a little bit about me, just so we're not complete strangers. Tell my story. Say about 5-6 years ago, a little bit before then, I was a merchant marine. Traveled the world, made great money. I love cooking. I was a gourmet chef. I learned everything I could about, culinary art so I can be the most elite guy that stepped in the kitchen, right? Made some bad decisions with money, mismanaged money as a single dad, and I end up hitting rock bottom in the Section 8 housing project, guys. Let me be really transparent with you. In my hometown of Baltimore, in the worst project you can be in. You're from Baltimore. That's off Madison and Enzer Street, Latrobe Homes, right? Made no excuses. Took care of my two daughters. And during that time, my credit was shot. So I got my credit score up from a 470 to a 750. Long story short, I was able to get my buying power back, implemented some good habits in my life, and I moved out of Baltimore into the west suburbs of Westmont, Illinois, outside of Chicago. And currently now I'm in the financial literacy space. So I want to help my people become more financially literate. I want to help them get ahead of those financial roadblocks like inflation and taxes, having bad credit and debt. And I also help homeowners get educated on solar. I want to save the planet. And I work with children with autism in my spare time, and I also mentor boys.
Awesome sauce, cool beans. That is absolutely phenomenal. So yes, coming from a military background, and first of all, when you talked about food, my hearing almost shut down because I automatically just started getting hungry. So I'm sure that your daughters, you have two daughters, correct?
Yes, correct. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I'm sure your daughters are very appreciative of that as well. So hopefully that you are showing them around the kitchen so they can be as equipped as you are. All right, cool beans. So,
Absolutely.
yep, and thank you. So, thank you so much for that introduction of yourself, Gerald. So now I want to ask you all some questions. And the first thing that came to my mind was just listening to the diversity in background and hearing about, I mean, just working, and then some of you are being business owners, entrepreneurs, um, helping to acquire and transfer businesses. It's just like, okay, how do you integrate being a busy professional father? How do you integrate and make sure that you're able to get that family time in there? So for those of you all who have a spouse, how are you able to balance all of that and integrate that with the children? And then for those of you who are single dads, so first of all, how many single dads do we have on the panel? Go ahead and raise your hand. Okay, Gerald, are you single dad? Are you able to hear me? Uh-oh, you're talking, can't hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear. Yes, yes, yes. Single dad, right?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I don't know. I thought you were one of our single dads on the panel. That's cool. No worries. So here's the deal. So whatever avenue that the track that you're in, how are you able to balance that or integrate that? So who would like to start off with that question first?
I think it's one of those things that you have to be on purpose about what your priorities, and
Mm-hmm.
and balance in life is really very important. And those things are also mentally healthy for you as a person when you're in leadership, when you are in business. You have to balance those things out because it gives you the realm and the scope of all things in life. Being able to to watch my boys football practice and games and the things through the season, that gives me the break away from the grind of radio and ads and commercials and shows, and it gives the something to look forward to. Not to say that when you love what you do, it's a different move anyway, but to be able to balance out your family time, your time, to be able to pour into your kids and know. And it's a special feeling, I'll say, especially when dad comes, dad shows up, dad is there, and they look for that. That's a special feeling within itself. So I've always taken that as a priority and a very meaningful thing in all that I've done. And it works the same way when, as far as, time with my wife. You have to balance those things out and make time for those things because it makes it extra special, and it also keeps you sane and in a good place in your spirit.
Absolutely, absolutely. So basically, what I'm hearing is that it behooves us to make sure that we carve out time not just as a family unit, because yes, we can spend time together with the whole family, but also making sure that we take time with the spouse and also with the children separately, so that way each person gets their time. Now, here's the other caveat to that. When you have multiple children, and especially I know, Bobby and David, you all talked about how you have a blended family. How do you find that, like, some of the challenges that may arise from having a blended family? And especially Bobby, I know you said that you also already have some biological children in addition to um, the non-biological children that you have. So how do you find that you're able to help everybody to feel inclusive and not feel like, well, you're not my dad, or, this is my daddy, not your daddy? How did you all set that up in a way that the children feel included?
Excellent question. So the way we had to do this was we had to suffer together. So I come from a place where I have been in the Marine Corps for over a decade. I do things the hard way, and the hard way normally works. There are easy ways to get things done, but at the end of the day, there's some things that you can only get the result by going through the work. So for us, what we had to do was we had to say, no matter what, we're going to get through this. I've got two sons. I've got a teenage son and a teenage daughter. And when things got rough, it got really rough. And when he wanted to be, man of the house, but he doesn't pay the house's bills, it got rougher. When mommy wanted to protect son, but mommy has a husband and mommy can't protect son because I'm the dad, it got rougher. And that didn't mean that we yelled at each other or we became aggressive toward each other. What that meant was my leadership had to stand up. What that meant was pride had to get put to the side. What that meant was ego had no place in decision making. So when I say suffer together, I mean honey upset because I made X decision. Son upset because I made X decision. I'm upset because wife is upset that I'm upset. So now we all walking around this thing feeling a type of way. But at the end of the day, we knew that the end goal was family. The end goal was legacy. The end goal was togetherness. So we suffered together. And today we are a blended family that stands together, fights together, prays together, and lives together.
I absolutely love that. The suffer together. That ego has no place. It has no place in parenting. It has no place in relationships. We have to put our pride to the side. And like you said, something that when you were talking, Bobby, it just reminded me of what Jim Rohn says when somebody asks him, when should I get started on whatever project is? And he says, when you're finished, meaning that you have to already know the end goal. You have to already know where you're headed. If you don't know where you're headed, you know where you're going. You have no direction. And so I love the fact that you said, no matter what, this is where we're headed. This is how we have to outline it and have our different roles in a respectful way, be respectful to each other, and then make our way towards that and understand that we're doing it again together. So that's phenomenal. I hope somebody's writing this down. I think everybody out here, if you haven't already figured it out, you should have pen and paper and you should be taking copious notes, because these brothers today are dropping some absolute gems. And I know that, we'll put it like this, we're going to turn the corner because I want to ask a few more questions. I'm going to get a lot more questions in here, but I want to ask some more specific questions. So I know that Gerald. So I know you have two daughters, right? And one of them has a mom who is out of the country, correct? Or is from out of the country.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes. So with your two daughters, tell us their ages and tell us a little bit about if there's any kind of what are some maybe the obstacles that you may have faced with them coming from, two different mothers and even two different backgrounds. What have been some of the challenges that maybe you have faced with raising them and keeping them together as a family unit?
That's a great question because I can highlight, some of the struggle. Sometimes it ain't always pretty We were talking about before, everyone sees your glory, but doesn't know your story, right? So for me, it's been a lot of obstacles with my daughters, and in a rare space too for me to have custody of both of them from two different relationships. You know, my youngest daughter's mom is from Guam, and she's 15. My oldest daughter's mother is from Richmond, Virginia, and she'll be 22 this year. And I mean, just getting custody of them, the challenges, not having that space to be able to co-parent, and so a lot of times you have that negative narrative out here on men that we're not there for our kids. And for me, I've been in positions with their moms where they put up every obstacle that they could possibly think of to make it hard for me, and I was able to push through. And I believe as a father and as a man, that put me through an incubation process. I was going through a period in life where this was strengthening me. And we tell people that you turn your problems into opportunities. Sometimes your problems aren't setbacks; they're set up to make you better. It's all about the perspective. So it's about me switching my perspective with my kids, and just really put me in position to actually, be able to conquer those difficulties with their moms. And I tell guys, there's no excuse. You want to be in your child's life. I mean, fortunately, we would like to have an opportunity where we can talk, work it out, co-parent, but sometimes you got to use the court system. And there's no excuse. I use the court system because they weren't going to set me back for spending time and being a part of my daughter's life, being that beacon of light for them from a father's perspective.
Yes. And so I'm adding on here what you were saying, because I'm trying to highlight as well, because you all are dropping nuggets after nuggets after nuggets. And then the last thing I put on there is advocate to be in their lives. You talked about how, yes, there, especially, and I'm just going to, keep it real, you all, that's what I do. And especially predominantly in the African American culture, it is a challenge. A lot of the stereotypes is that men don't stand up. Men aren't a part of the family. They're not a part of the household. David, I see you nodding because he knows, being a part of restoration, you understand those obstacles. And that's not always the case. Just really quickly for me and, my ex-husband, you all know I'm a divorcee. We have 50-50 custody. He is actively involved in their lives. 1 week I have him, the next week they have him. So it can happen, and we co-parent. It wasn't easy in the beginning, but just like you talked about, Bobby, you have to have that perseverance, and you have to have the end goal in mind. You have to keep working towards it. And I love the fact that, that Gerald, you're like, you know what, this is what it has to be, and that I'm going to advocate to make sure that I have my daughter's best interest in mind, and make sure that I can provide for them the best way that I can, and make sure that they have what they need. And that's you as their father in their life. So many times, unfortunately, the system does not support men in their journey to be a part of their children's lives. So I'm glad that you took those extra steps to make sure that you didn't get shut out, and that now you are able to shed light and cast light in their lives. I love that when you talked about that beacon of light. So thank you so much for that. Gerald, that's so valuable. Dr. Ed, I
Dr.
definitely.
Michele, can I add another point
Yes,
on
please.
to being an advocate? Because
Please.
one of the things that I noticed from my own father is that he experienced racism when he was working here in where I live, and I experienced it as well today. And when he was growing up, like the message was always like, don't make too much of a fuss about it. Go and make your money, and live a good life. And what I realized is that when we do that as fathers and as parents, essentially racism doesn't go away. It's still going to be there. And unless you do something about it, it is still going to be there for my children as well. I would just be passing it on to them. And I've decided that, you know what, I'm not going to do that. And I would say that that's one of the most challenging things, is because this system isn't like, I work a lot in the education system. It's not designed for you to resist. It's not designed for you to make a fuss, and they don't really want you like making comments and stuff like that. But my feeling is I have to, because I know that it is not going to be an easy world that my children are going to go into. And if I don't make sure that we even the odds, or we give them an opportunity, like a fighting chance, they are not going to have the opportunities that they need. And we're going to have to fight for it. We live in a society where in some cultures, they're a very high power distance. Like you just don't talk to anybody in authority because they're so above you or so high from you. But I do feel that we live in a society, especially in North America, where the squeaky wheel and only the squeaky wheel is the one that gets the grease. And so you got to make some noise. You got to be able to stand up, and it kind of puts a target on your back as a father or as a parent. It's just like they're not going to target anybody. They're going to target you. They're going to find out who you are. They're going to find out who your kids are. They're going to make their lives miserable. And yeah, that might be the case. But in the end, this has to be for our collective good. It has to be something where we're on the right side of things. And I do feel like we have to take on this burden unless if we don't want to pass it on to our children, because they really like trauma is intergenerational. They're going to experience it if we don't do something about it now. And so I do appreciate the opportunity to talk about some challenges. That's kind of one of the ones that I find really sticky. The reason I say that is because all of the racism stuff that you see right now in schools and in your society, they're also baked into all of your data inside any AI system. So anytime you act online, all those same things exist. And if they don't understand how to identify it and how to fight it, they won't even have a chance growing up. You'll see this magical algorithm and it'll just do things, and somehow you won't be succeeding on it. So you've got to be very serious about making sure that they understand like what is right and what is wrong. Like when I teach like a grade 3 group, I ask them like, you always see all these movies with, bad, like evil robots. Why do they turn evil? Is it because they're mad at you? They're angry? No, they're just doing what you told them to do. And whose job is it to find out what is right, what is wrong? That's your job. Your job is to know what is right, what is wrong. And so it's hopeful with the work that we do and that we model, that we teach our kids about what is right and what's wrong, because that's the critical thing that our computers are not going to do for us. We're going to have to do that work.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for chiming in on that as well, because, you know, every moment is a teaching moment. And it doesn't matter, what side of we call the side of tracks that you're on. There's always a teaching moment, a teachable moment, if people are willing to learn. So I love the fact how you interjected how you experienced racism in your father, and that. And so I put in there to highlight that, what legacy are we passing on? What legacy are we passing on? When you were talking, the first thing I was thinking about was, oh, you got to go along to get along. No, we don't, because then what are we passing down? And so, as parents and as fathers, you all are setting the trend. You are helping to set the trend on how we can now change systemic racism, change systemic challenges, so that way we are not passing that on as a legacy. Because that's definitely something that we can tacitly. I said to a client earlier today, I said, not making a decision is still making a decision. So when we don't make a decision to stand up for what's right, then we're making a decision to stand up for what's wrong, tacitly, implicitly. And so in there, you talked about the implicit bias that happens in the AI system because we are implicitly and sometimes explicitly biased. So thank you so much for adding that in there, Dr. Ed. Really, really insightful. All right. And so now, James, I want to add, because I know that you founded, first of all, a radio station, a radio show. And so I want to know, how are you able to utilize your voice to impact your children? Because obviously you're projecting out to the world at large, but how does that then come down to more micro? Because we're talking macro. How do we bring it down to more micro that is now has a direct or indirect impact on your children?
The biggest thing that I had to realize is my kids were focused on every move that I made. So, in understanding that I'm leading by example, I took that and I leveraged that. I said, okay, I can teach them and also show them the way, and they'll pick up the little nuggets of everything that I would want to instill in them. And I look today And I see in my 26-year-old and I see in my soon to be 19-year-old that they picked up the nuggets of those things, from their love of music to not just, being boxed into one genre, but loving all music and loving all people. I was able to instill faith, love, and pride, and also understanding that these are keys to life. These are not just temporary things. These are things that are going to get you through, and also breaking the chain of stigma. I say you have to know that when you walk in the room, you are the difference. You are the difference in the element that is the game changer. I don't care what room it is. You want your chin up and your chest out, and know that you incorporate all those things that you've learned. And so the radio, I took it and I made it a thing, and they well embraced it and was like, there's an avenue, there's an outlet to understand that my voice is special and different, and it can have impact and inspire. I said, I always said, you are somebody. Now you take your somebody and your gift that God blessed you with, and you channel it and you make it your purpose. And on purpose, you impact and be a blessing to others, and lead by example. Walk the walk, not just talking, but put action behind the words. We know anything in this life that is going to impact another person comes from the action of what you exhibit. So that there was the biggest thing for me, Dr. Clark, is leading by example and understanding that they will imitate. It's like being a coach. It's like you give them the play, and then you can condition them to be able to sustain and make it all 4 quarters. And when the game is on the line and when it's time for you to shoot the shot or carry the rock, you got to know that it's that extra conditioning and what you put into it that got you over the hump, that got you the touchdown, that got you the score. Those things are what count. And also working when nobody's watching. The world ain't gonna watch you when you're in your preparation. And being a goat in this life, that preparation starts long before any lights are turned on.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. I put in there the word integrity. Integrity is when we do that deal, we do or say something when no one else is around. So who are we when nobody else is around? And with that same person when people are around, showing that integrity and that consistency. And you talked about basically practice makes permanent. Practice makes permanent. What we do in our home setting is what the kids are going to do when they get out of the home setting. I find it so funny. Okay, quick anecdote, you guys. I find it funny. So for those of you who may or may not know, my background, licensed mental health therapist. So I work with children. I also work with adults. I'm also a mindset management coach for professional women. Here's the deal. When I'm in a shopping center or a grocery store, and then or even in one of our sessions, when I'm doing a family session, and then the parent tries to reprimand the child for something, the child looking at them like, what you talking about, Willis? That lets me know, okay, this is something foreign, and they actually have not introduced this to the child. So I like how you talked about introducing different concepts, different ideas, different genres in the musical setting. Introducing that to your children to expand their horizons and give them depth, if you will. So then that way, when they are able to experience something outside of the home setting, they have familiarity with it and they know how to interact with it appropriately. So I love the creativity as well as still being able to interact in a way that is still, and I'm almost tongue in cheek to say societal norms, because what does that really mean? But I'm saying that in more of a positive sense, in a way that is positively impactful. And I also thought about the ripple effect. We talked about how it starts with you and then it ripples outwards. Each one reach one, teach one. So I really, really appreciate that, how you talked about it from the standpoint of being a radio personality. So thank you so much for that. Now, Mr. Pinkston, and anytime you all, please feel free. If we talk about something just like, Dr. Ed, when he interjected, which actually I was coming to him next, anyways. But I'm so glad they interject. So, because if it's something, because I was going to ask you something totally different, and I'm glad that you were able to, of course, do that lead by example, right, and advocate. so that way we can hear a different perspective. Because the questions that I'm asking are some are some things that I already had premeditated, if you will. But a lot of this is conversational. And for you, those of y'all who are out there watching, and thank you so much. I see y'all out there watching, and I'm not breaking it up because first of all, I am posting the comments that you all are having. So thank you. Please keep the comments coming. If you have any questions that you would like to ask for the gentleman on the panel today, now is your opportunity. I have my spectacles here as well, so that way I can read the comments, right? I have my readers with me. So if you have any questions that you want to ask as well, I value your input. I value your questions. And inquiring minds want to know. We have a lot of professional women who are watching right now, and there's some gentlemen also that have graced the audience. So if you all have any questions that you want to ask of this fabulous five fathers, now is the time to do it. This is one night only, you all, just one moment in time. So take advantage, right? An opportunity is only an opportunity unless you seize the opportunity. So make sure to get those questions in there. We may be able to, well, let me put my glasses on. Okay, we're 40 minutes in. We may be able to get a rapid fire. If you all have any questions, we may be able to get a rapid fire in there. Or, of course, we can just integrate the questions as they come. But please keep the comments coming. I appreciate that. I appreciate the love that you're sharing and that you're shedding on these men tonight. Continue to love on them. Continue this conversation. The conversation does not have to end tonight. So make sure that you're writing down the names. I don't even probably have to tell you all this, but let's keep the conversation going. So, all right. And in light of that, let's keep the conversation going. So, all right, Mr. Pinkston, I got to come to you. Mr.
Okay.
Restoration, I have to get your input on this because I don't know what the stats are now, but I know the stats at one point was like 50-50 chance. Flip a coin, you're going to be divorced, right?
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, as a part of that, the children get caught in the crossfire.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you are working with your families and helping them with that restoration piece, how are you able to weave and maneuver that? How are you able to help them to navigate such that they can either because sometimes it's a stay together, play together, and sometimes it's play together apart. So how do you help them to navigate that and such that the kids aren't left now in the dust and wondering what's going on?
First of all, I love everything that everyone said. I was actually taking some notes myself because all you gentlemen definitely added some nuggets. The only thing that I would like to add is when you're working with these families that are in separation mode, divorce mode, you have to allow the child to know that it's not their fault. That is one of the biggest things that I can say. Because a lot of kids feel, oh, well, because mommy and daddy are breaking up, it's my fault. So a lot of times I tell the child, and I specifically say, hey, let me just talk to the child. Let me talk to the teen, even. Because I feel it gets even worse when it's with the teens because they're getting older and they're saying, okay, well, we've been together all this time, sometimes living in dysfunction, won't get into that, but letting that child know it's not your fault. It is something that mom and dad are dealing with. But as a collective unit, we love you. And I made sure I put emphasis on that love because a lot of kids don't feel that they're loved by both parents and they already are blaming themselves continuously for the separation. And then I go from there to talk to the families, even if you guys are separated, even if you're in divorce, especially with the fathers, since we're talking about fathers, you have to make sure that you see this child, whether you live across the street or another state or another country. FaceTime, we all have all this technology. You got to make sure that you're in your child's life as much as possible because not only do they need the mother, they definitely need you. They need you to be present. And if you are, and I'm going to say this, even if you are not in the house, you have to make sure if you can't come to every game, you got to be there. You got to show your presence because like, okay, for instance, when I get off of this wonderful podcast, guess where I'm going? My son has a late, I don't know why it's so late, but a late football game. And I set him down tonight and I said, listen, when dad is done with this podcast, I'm getting in my car, I'm changing my clothes, and I'm coming to your game. Now, and I told him, I said, now listen, dad got a lot of stuff to do, but I'm making you important right now. And my point is, and why am I saying all of this? I said, you know that I have stuff doing all day. I work during the day. I work with young men that's on probation during the day, and I'll have my business as well, working with my clients. But I said, you are special to me. And I said, you need to know that every single day, that you're special to me. We have to let our children know that they are special, not just saying it, we have to be able to show it. Because if I just tell my wife I love her, but I never do anything with her, I never carve out time for her. Because we were talking about that before, carving out time. And what I do, I carve out that time. And I say myself, okay, I have an hour, no phone, nobody's calling me, and I give her that special time. And I do that with my son because I want them both to feel special in their individual ways. Yes, we do stuff as a family, but I know that my son needs my time, and I know that my wife needs some time, my time. But when it comes to these families, to answer your question, the parents have to know, listen, we may not be getting along because whatever, infidelity, whatever happened, but you and me have to work on our relationship for this child to succeed. Because a lot of kids won't succeed because they feel, again, guilty. They feel that they broke the family up. And because of that, they deal with other issues: depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, no confidence in themselves. And then their grades drop. They are experimenting, and just so on and on and on, because I don't want to go over the time. But we also really got to really pay attention and hone in on, you can't be in your feelings all the time. And I know it's easier said than done, but parents, if you're in this situation and you have that child, you have that children, you got to make sure that they know it's not their fault, and you're going to do all that you can to co-parent. And even with this blended, and I'm going to say this really quick, when I got in my son's life, he turned around as we're driving and told me, hey, I don't like you. I like my daddy. My girlfriend, my wife, she said she was embarrassed. I said, no, don't be embarrassed. I said, let him express himself. I said, listen, I'm not trying to be your father. I said, maybe one day I will be, but I said, let's just be friends. We built that relationship up to the place that I took them out one night, and I'm done. As I'm driving them back home, he says, David, I love you. And I'm like, and I'm thinking she put it up to, she said, I didn't put him up to that. He said it to herself. So since that day, he has been calling me dad, because I've set the bar and I've talked to him. And I told him, I said, you might not be my biological son, but you are my son. They need to know that you're there. And I had an important conversation with him about some decision making that I made. He was not in agreement with that. Going back to what Mr. Bobby said, he was not in agreement. He gave me an attitude, and I gave him an attitude. And I said, wait a minute. This decision is going to affect our whole lives. Let's you and me talk. Let's sit down. Instead of trying to get this argument going, let's sit down. Let me apologize. Let's have a conversation. And then I poured my heart out to him, and he starts to understand. And I'll say this as I close. We have to make sure that our children know that we love them. We respect them, because I respect my son, but I'm going to have to make the decisions that are hard, but trust me, and then trust the God that's in me too. At the end of the day, trust the God that's in me, because I'm never going to make a decision without him leading me. And I'm done.
Wow, that was actually, it was so much wrapped in there. I'm like, I'm trying to extract and put the nuggets out there for people to grab hold of them. And there are other people in the comments. Thank you all so much in the comment section. People are really loving and enjoying this conversation, a very much needed conversation to have with these fabulous 5 professional men, fathers, who are showing, they're leading by example. And so you talked about a story in there that was really heartwarming, and I'd like to know, for anybody who'd like to answer, I want to know, what are some other either heartwarming or other anecdotes that you all are thinking of that maybe has helped to shape you as a father? What are some of those stories? We want to hear some stories now. So y'all give us some stories.
If I can add,
Sure.
first off, let me just say this before I even get started. You guys on this call, see the comments are blowing up. Throw some flames in the chat. You guys are getting some value. Dr. Clark, you could not have picked or assembled a better panel of men. I'm learning so much from these guys. These guys dropping so much nuggets. Dr. Ed, James, Bobby. The gentleman just got done talking. Sorry if I forgot your name, sir. You guys are amazing. I'm so glad to be here among you guys, just getting the energy. And really quick, I know we're short on time. I want to say this. One of the things that's really has shaped me in my journey as a father is one thing about, like one of the guys had mentioned about balance, right? And, your busy career and your work life, how do you balance that with your family and give them more time? Because here's the thing, letting them know that they're the reasons why you're doing it. So you got to put them in the forefront and balance that. And for me, one of the biggest things I was able to show my daughters was that one, back in 2019, at one point, making, $16, $17 an hour, started my credit repair business, supplementing my income, and then being able to eventually fire my boss, donate my job back to the economy, and grow a team in several states. It gave me more time with them. And they saw that it was times to where I had to, work and I didn't get paid. I had to keep showing up and nothing happened. And those are the things that really shape and mold our kids to see that you can't realistically live in the world that we live in terms of the mindset of the microwave success syndrome. They see everyone on Instagram, they see everyone on Facebook and how they're living their lives. But here's the thing. I tell my kids, you gotta be willing to go through the process, right? And I believe in that butterfly process. You cocoon yourself and you break through that cocoon, you have that breakthrough. And I tell them that here's the thing, personal self-development is the key. And Bobby mentioned something really powerful earlier about how he stood up in leadership, put his pride to the side. And one of the things I want to share with you guys, this book here has really changed my life. John C. Maxwell, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. I see Mr. Bobby's got some books back there. We can't see the title, but I know they some impactful books. You got a beautiful mind, my brother. But that book has really helped me out. And one of the things I do, and I bring us in for a landing, is I have the family meetings every Sunday. One, I think as men, we have to have that open line of communication in our home. We got to show our kids leadership, let them know that their opinion matters. A lot of times our children don't speak out in public. Why? Because they've been shut down. So we can't shut them down in the home, right? Let them be confident coming outside of the home and just, just being a man and showing them how to, set that standard, guys. And one of the things I wanted to touch on is one of the best things I could have ever started teaching my kids was not just talking about, hey, look, we want to be successful, create generational wealth. I want to get them on a path for sustainable generational wealth, because something happens to me, I want you to be able to sustain the wealth. How you do that? Financial education. Right? You can't get all my money and get all my assets and then you blow it away. So we got them reading these books, and you ladies are here in the chat. These books are good. We got T. Harv Eker, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. Really, really good book to really shape and mold their mind so that your kids are not just coming into some money or coming into your success. Because us men here, us women here, we have or had to become. And we don't want our kids just getting lucky. We want them to have the mindset they can sustain what they've inherited.
That's it. Oh, wow. Those were nuggets drop. Path for sustainable generational wealth. And that goes back to the question of what legacy are we leaving? What legacy are we leaving? And it starts by leadership. I appreciate how each one of you fathers are leading your households, leading with good quality leadership and passing along the type of characteristics that is building up our children, as well as helping them to understand, first of all, what legacy even is and what that looks like on the positive side, rather than leaving a generation of debt. I know you touched upon the financial aspect as well. So what I like to do at this point, and you all don't be concerned with time, because I know I said 60 minutes, but I said it was a loose 60 minutes, right? Because I want to make sure the content that we have, because again, this is one night only, y'all. This is one night only that we're having. So I want to make sure that we're able to get in your thoughts and ideas. I don't want anybody to leave here and say, man, I meant to say this, because that I meant to say this could be the one thing that could help to turn somebody's family from ordinary to extraordinary. Help them get over that hump. That can be the one nugget to help to change the trajectory of their family. So I want to make sure that your voices are heard, and whatever it is that you want to impart upon the audience, that you're able to do so. And thank you so much for that, Gerald, also by letting the audience know, listen, if you're getting value from this, let us know that as well. I know it's valuable. Everyone on this panel, we all know this is very, very powerful information. And of course, the comments that I'm getting in here. So definitely keep those flames coming. I'm a heart girl, so keep those yellow hearts coming. And let us know that you are with us. And I see the numbers are still here. I see the numbers are growing. So make sure you continue to share this out as well. Share this on your social media, whether you're watching this on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. Make sure that you're sharing us out as well. So this message can get out there because people need to hear this. We're talking about from a standpoint of fathers, 5 fabulous fathers who are tremendous, not only in their own home, but they're also tremendous in the business community and the community at large. So what I want to do is I want each person to be able to go around. So go around and let me know. So, and I want to spotlight you on this one. For the people who are watching, and hashtag replay is for real. So when you watch this on replay, it is for real. And thank you so much, Dr. LaShawn. I see you already, she said she's already shared this out. Thank you for the yellow hearts as well. So I want everybody to go around and I want you to give what would be, so from like a father's perspective, right? Because that's what you all are. There's professional women out here that are watching right now. So based on that, what advice would you give to them? How can they best navigate the challenges and responsibilities of parenthood while pursuing their professional goals?
Oh,
I know that's
wow.
a question. I know, right?
Yeah. I'd like to take the stab at this one first because I'm likely going to come at it from a very different perspective. Being
Take it
a
away.
full-time entrepreneur, there's a cost of excellence. And the cost of excellence is one that you've got to factor into your life, into your vision, into your sacrifices. And one of the things that I have to teach my sons, my daughters, and share with my wife is that you've got value creation, you've got value capturing, and then you've got the exercising of dominance. Now, this is from a very fatherhood standpoint. So when we say value creation, everybody's valuable in some way. And a lot of people are creating a lot of value, but the problem is not enough people are capturing enough of that value. When you're an employee, you're creating value for the company. But if you're only capturing 0.02% of the value that you create, that means you're being dominated. That's one that you just got to sit with. So I use these words that I know cut deep because we have to be honest. So the role of the father is also being able to get real with your family. Hey guys, if I don't do XYZ, we don't eat. There was a statement here. Are you capturing the value you're creating? It's absolutely what I'm getting at. So if you don't have the ability to do so, you probably aren't a business owner. Now, I'm not saying that the business is the only way to capture value, but what I am saying is if we're going to build legacies, if we're going to break generational curses, if we're going to position ourselves to be extraordinary examples, influence our communities, and change the face of finance, leadership, the education system, our community backdrops, there must be an economic element. Economies rule the world. And if there is no way for you to leverage yourself in your economy, then there's no way for you to have an opinion or make a decision. I love what my coach says. He says, for many years, I did not have the money to afford an opinion. So what I really teach my kids, what I teach my wife, what I lead by example for my team members and my company is that we create value. And of the value that we create, we capture the lion's share of it, as well as passing as much value on to our customers. You should be able to do this with your engagement with people. So what does this look like? I read as much as I possibly can. I learn as much as I possibly can, and I operate within my vertical and expertise. By doing so, I'm making myself more valuable. I'm creating more value. But now I can capture the lion's share of that value by providing my services, leveraging my information, education, and expertise for the benefit of others. But in my creation of value and in my capturing of value, I can also pass on value. And that is the secret of compounding value. So when you do this right and you build phenomenal businesses, what you're really doing is you're creating value for the economy. And when you create value for the economy, you create value for people, you create value for your country, you create value for yourself, and you separate yourself. Now, here's the thing, and this is one of the things that's really important: the cost of excellence. I work, ladies and gentlemen, roughly 80 plus hours a week minimum. And that's including college, kids, business, wife, and all this other stuff. But primarily the 80-hour piece, that's excluding the wife, the kids, and that's including business, self-development, personal development, and all the different things that go into building yourself. So the cost, with everybody talking about, yo, I need to spend this much time with this and this much time with that and this much time with my wife. When you do this the way we're doing it, and guys, this is not necessarily for everybody. That's why I said I wanted to take this one away first, because everybody doesn't necessarily have $1 billion vision, and that's not bad. But if you have a multi-million-dollar vision, if our goal as a family is to have a multi-billion-dollar estate, my goal as an entrepreneur is to build multiple companies that exit for hundreds of millions of dollars. That is a real goal of mine. So what that means is all of my time must be accounted for. And that also means that my family has to be willing to sacrifice it. That's the real talk piece. That, like, I have to work these amount of hours to some degree to reach certain heights because it's competitive. And I'll end on this. There's competition and there's creation. Now, I am a big believer of creation versus competition. But I'll tell you this: everything competes and something's always being created. And if you want to have a voice, if you want to have influence, you have to be high enough on the influence meter totem pole to be heard, because everybody has an opinion. I don't just want to have an opinion, I want to have influence. To have influence and an opinion, you need economic leverage. And if you want economic leverage, you need to be able to create value and capture the value you create. And if you're going to do that, you got to be willing to work, willing to sacrifice, willing to grow, willing to cry, willing to build. And if you will do that, and you can find a family that'll stand behind you, build a family that'll stand behind you, your legacy will be one that survives the test of time. That's my piece.
That there, y'all. Mr. Bobby Jackson just put on a clinic. Point blank, period. Now you all understand why I have each and every one of these brothers on this platform. Because each one has expertise, each one has value, and he talked about creating value. Creating value to be able to capture that value and then be able to pass that value forward. That's legacy at its best. But if we don't capture, and he talked about the lion's share, if we don't capture the lion's share of that value and we allow it to slip out of our fingers, out of our grasp, and allow it to go wherever it is going to, that is the dominating force, the dominating factor that's going to then influence our children. It's because it's a macro effect that then is going to come down to our micro. When he talked about, and we have the same mentor, we have the same business mentor who says basically you have to be able to afford your opinion. And if you don't, then you're going to end up adopting and adapting to the opinion of others. And so that's what Bobby is talking about. Mr. Jackson is talking about the fact that if you are not the leading, the cutting edge force, the value maker in your household, then you're allowing your children to be influenced by those who are higher on the influenceometer. I don't know if y'all saw that in the chat. I put in there influenceometer. There's an influenceometer, meaning the meter that rates influence. So who do you want to be that influence maker on your children? Or are you going to allow someone else to influence your children and they adopt their opinions, their habits, their options? That's what Mr. Jackson is talking about. And far more in depth than that. I'm really just bringing it down to the basic of basics. But please hit this on hashtag replay, because there's so much that was within there that I can't capture in a brief summary. So I'm not going to try to, because I don't want to lose the essence. So please hashtag replay, y'all, on that one. All right. So who would like to go next? I want everybody to their give their advice to the professional woman who's watching this right now, who is saying, how on earth do I balance this? And they may have a spouse, they may not. But how do I now, in pursuing my career, how am I also able to integrate, juggle, balance, impart these values and morals and principles with my children? So who would like to go next? I'm so excited to spotlight you. And again, you can talk about it from your perspective. Who's next?
I'll grab this really quick because I do have to go really
Yes.
soon. I'll say this really quick. So to balance this, and I'm even talking to the married women, I'm talking to even the single women. When you have your children and you're trying to balance, again, I'm very big on communication. First of all, I love what Mr. Bobby said, and you have to make that sacrifice. There are things that your children might not fully understand what you're doing right now, but you're doing it for your family. And I want to add this piece: communicating that too, letting them know that this is what I have to do. And I say that to my family constantly. Listen, I have to spend this time because I'm a person that I love to do research. I love to break down what I've gathered. I have to dissect it. I need time to do that. So it's not going to take me an hour. It might take me 2. It might take me 3. But I'm not neglecting you. I'm not neglecting that we need to spend time. I'm not neglecting family time. We'll have that. But right now, I have to make this sacrifice. I love what he said. You got to communicate that. Because when you don't communicate those pieces of the sacrifice and what you have to do, because there are some, if we could be honest, that don't communicate that and they just do it, and they bring rifts in the family dynamic. They bring more problems in the family dynamic. They bring situations that or conversations that should be more healthier to talk about, to communicate, but that's not. So I would say communicate what you have to do. Make that very plain to your children, to your spouse as well, if you're married, that this is what I'm talking to the men, but I'm also talking to the women. Explain that, because like, for example, not only do I have a business, my wife does. She actually has 2 on top of her being a special education teacher. So when I have time for her, guess what she tells me? She tells me the same thing: honey, I gotta get this done. But I understand and I respect and I honor what she's saying, because she does understand. Because before she started her business, if she gonna get me, that's okay. I don't think she fully understood. She had an idea, but not until she was able to get into it, then she says, "Oh, I understand the sacrifice now. Now we're on the same path." I'm saying this to the married couples. You got to be on the same path, even if one has the business and the other one doesn't, or you both communicate that. But even for the single mothers, find the balance. And it's not always. And I'm gonna say this too: it might not always be a balance. It's like almost like a give and go. What are you willing to sacrifice? So maybe you're willing to sacrifice some of the time with your friends, or sometimes on the next Netflix, and chill. And you're gonna have to spend that time with the family. But a lot of things, what I have to do, I spend that time. I turn my phone off, But after I get done, I had to get right back to what I'm doing, because the sacrifice that I'm making is a part of my legacy. The sacrifice that I'm making is going to put my whole family, and even when I'm gone, in a better place. That's why I love what he said, because that's kind of the sentiments that I wanted to share. And I'll leave you with this. It is possible to be an amazing mother that you already are, and still have your business, and still do what you have to do for your family. But you got to sit down sometimes. Sometimes you got to sit down by yourself, and you got to say, what am I willing to sacrifice? And beyond the sacrifice, what am I willing to do to get my family to another place, another level, that we all one day will be able to spend more time? But right now, mom got to do what she had to do. Mom and daddy got to do what we have to do for the betterment. And I literally just had this conversation with my own son. So this is not something that I'm just coming out of my head. This is raw and real, exclusively. I just had this conversation with my son about having an understanding what I and his mother has to do for the betterment, keyword betterment, for our lives and his life. And he understands it, even if he doesn't fully get that because he's still adolescent. I think he understood because I poured out and I communicated, this is where we are, but understand this is not just for me and your mother. This is for our whole family to succeed. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. David Pinkston, for that. Absolutely. One of the things I put in the comments was delayed gratification. I was hearing the sacrifice and delaying those gratifications. I know you got to make it to your son's game. So if you do have to excuse yourself, then definitely thank you so much for joining us on this panel, and staying for the extended remix version of our inaugural Dr. Clark, right? Our Tuesday Talks with Dr. Clark, our Fatherhood edition. So thank you so much. Gentlemen, I want to give you all, the rest of you all, the opportunity as well to make sure that you are able to impart some words again to the audience here. You're seeing lots of comments in the chat, claps, fire, hearts, all of that. So what would you like to impart? Who would like to go next, and leave a nugget for those who are watching? What nugget would you like to leave?
I can add
Sure.
onto what was just mentioned
Sure, take it
by.
away.
Okay, cool. So one of the things that I was struggling with recently was with my son, and it had to do with like confidence. He was testing for his black belt, and he was saying things to himself like, I can't do it. He's getting really anxious. He was saying, I'm dumb. I can't do this. Like I just am not capable. And I think that my message kind of relates to what was mentioned earlier about creativity and this notion of creation. But maybe what I'll add to it is that like leadership is this transmission of confidence. Because my goal with my son, I know that he can do it. And if I'm around, for example, as the dad, I know that he can achieve whatever he puts his mind to. But I can't always be there. And a lot of the fathers here said that they can't be all the time here as well. We try to, but we can't. And so they're going to have to figure out how to deal with these types of situations on their own. And so my approach, which kind of builds off what DMP Speaks said, is that competence comes from, confidence. The confidence to try and fail comes from a person's competence. The way I describe it is we have two minds, right? We have one mind, which is can I do it? Like it's your anxiety, it's all of your emotions. And then you have the other, which is focused on doing it. And you can think of it, the way I described it to my son is that we have, like, imagine when you're playing something that you really like. My son really likes Lego. Do you ever tell yourself, man, I can't do it, I'm dumb? He's like, no, I never tell myself that. Well, what about when you're playing Minecraft? You love playing Minecraft and you fail all the time at that. So do you tell yourself that you're dumb? Do you tell yourself that you can't do it? He's like, no, I never do that either. It's like, well, when you're building origami, do you tell yourself like that you're dumb when you're doing origami? He's like, no, I don't. He's like, exactly. That's the difference. The difference is when you are involved with something that you like, that version of yourself that is telling you I'm dumb, I can't do it, doesn't even exist. You are fully focused on that task. And it's the same kind of thing. Like, how well can you do your homework when you're watching TV at the same time? And it's like, I can't really do my homework when I'm watching TV at the same time. Well, think of it this way. Like, every time you've got a crisis of confidence, like you feel like you can't do it, you're watching the I Can't Do It TV on on Netflix channel, right? So like, you have to be able to drop everything. You have to really say, none of those things exist. I know they still do, right? And I know we all have this. We're all of two minds. But if you let that voice of I can't do it be really strong, you won't be able to do it. You will be right. You will effectively have this. And I can see that as I think Emily Moreno mentioned earlier, like, sometimes if you have like one child, it can be hard. Like, how can you even model this? Well, I think as a parent, we're already modeling a type of best practice that our kids are going to need long term. In my field of artificial intelligence, like, there's new generative AI and everything. Students have asked, hey, can I use ChatGPT to do my homework? And my response is absolutely. But the condition is you have to do 10 times as much homework. And it still has to be all correct. Because that's the kind of society that we're moving into. Like, let's face it, North America is getting older. And what this is similar to is maybe the Industrial Revolution. We just had less people. And we had to figure out ways in order to be 10 times more productive than we were. And so think about everything that you're doing, right? Like, what if you had to be 10 times more productive? How would you do that, right? You might have to depend on a computer or two. You might have to depend on a robot or some kind of service. What ways would you do that? And I see this as Bobby was talking about creation. And there's also this idea of, in capitalism, like creative destruction. There are things that we're going to do which will make that work that we're doing fairly irrelevant. Like, if you have to ask the question of, you have to do 10 times as much work, what do you drop? What do you not do as a result? Where do you spend your time? And it helps us focus a lot more on our priorities and what are the things that we do want to scale. Maybe I do need to hire somebody to do these things that I don't really find very productive. And so you start thinking about outsourcing parts of it. But the reality is you still have to manage it. You have to check it. Like, is it doing it correctly? And so we hopefully can spend a lot more time on that type of critical thinking. And to me, the only way you can get there is it starts with the confidence. It starts with the competence, starting with what your kids are interested in. And so I'm passionately interested in what my kids like to watch. I'm passionately interested in what kind of things they like to do on a computer or see online, because I know that is where their source of inspiration is. That's where the confidence is. All I need to do, and all I need to teach them to do, is to connect whatever they're doing. It could be the most boring homework to their current interests. And I think that that's where people get stuck a lot, is that they feel like creativity only applies to the things that they like. But the reality is that's just limiting your creativity. People who are truly creative, the more boring the task, the more creativity it takes in order to connect that to what you already know and connect that to your interests. And so build up that skill, and then you can motivate them to do anything, because creativity is just a type of expression. Like, it's a self-expression. They use Lego because that's a way that they express themselves. They build this thing in Minecraft because it's a way that they express themselves. And so giving that opportunity for self-expression is so important in these assignments. And so I am really hoping that we take that very seriously and we go, this is the skill that I want you to have. I may not be able to teach you all the things that you learn in school or may not have time, but if I can teach you how to motivate yourself, there is nothing that you can't learn on the internet these days. There's nothing that can stop you from achieving your goal. Really, it's what is stopping most people from just like learning and accelerating. I think a lot of it has to do with confidence. And so after this message, I did tell my son, hey, like, okay, like when you're doing this Taekwondo thing, nothing else exists, only Taekwondo. And you're doing this not because you're like, oh, like I want to become the best Taekwondo person. It's because it's connected to your interests, all the things that you're learning in this class. And I am very proud to say that this weekend, my son, he got his black belt in Taekwondo for the first time. So it's a technique that has really worked. It really worked for him. And I'm really hoping that this technique will work for you as well. So thank you. And I hope that this is useful for a lot of the moms out there, because I feel like you feel like there's a responsibility to do a lot of things, but sometimes that can also lead to a dependency. And so if you can focus on one thing, I would focus on how can they generate their own confidence? How can they become confident by connecting it to their competence? Thank you.
Wow, that, Dr. Ed, thank you so much. I mean, I was typing away, capturing those nuggets, because it is so true about that, the negative self-talk that we have. The voice is so quiet when we're doing the things that we love to do. And sometimes it's so quiet, it's non-existent. We don't even hear it. But yet it registers in things that we don't have the competence in. And then that decreases our self-esteem and our confidence. So being able to help our children to, first of all, identify when we're having those self-talks. See, we're talking my language now, right? So when we have the self-talk, what are we saying to ourselves? How are we talking to ourselves? How are we seeing things? The first thing I thought about was something that William Shakespeare said: nothing is neither good or bad, but thinking is what makes it so. Right? So being able to understand and realize that, what are we saying to ourselves? How's that impacting us? How's that impacting our behaviors and our actions and our willingness to try something new, our willingness to keep going when that voice keeps telling us no, 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 that we're not good enough, that we're not this, we're not that. It plagues us all, not even just kids, us as adults. Anybody that says they don't have that voice, I have a word for that, but we won't talk about it. But the bottom line is that we have to be open and honest, and we have to address it. In order to tame something, we have to name it. And then we can claim our rights to be able to perform and produce. So I love the fact that you talked about the confidence factor and our competence and how they go hand in hand, and how that we put limits on our creativity. That the more boring the task, I don't know if somebody caught that, the more boring the task, the more creativity is required in order for us to be able to sometimes just get through that task. So yes, let's not limit our creativity. I don't want to give too much recap, because I want to give the other guys a chance. But there was please hashtag replay, y'all. Put some flames in the chat. Put some hearts in the chat. I want to give the opportunity now for we have James JT Thompson. We also have Gerald Rogers, who wants to take it away. You got the floor. What nuggets you want to drop on the folks? What do you want to leave them with? And thank you again, Bobby Jackson. Thank you again, Dr. Ed, and of course, DM Speaks, who is also David M. Pinkston, who blessed us this night. So which one of you all would like to go next?
Okay, I'll take it. Yeah, first off, man, again, just some amazing value. As we say, nugget. You guys are definitely dropping some, and hope you guys on the panel, as well as the people that are listening, and ladies that are listening, taking some notes. So thank you guys. I appreciate that. Congrats on your son, Dr. Ed, getting that black belt. That's amazing. He's able to implement what you're teaching as a dad. And so how, women, busy women, and with careers and entrepreneurship, how can they balance motherhood? And it's interesting to give my commentary on that, because coming from a woman's perspective, right? So I'll do my best, and I'll say this: one of my favorite sayings by Les Brown. He says, "We shouldn't play it safe, right? You're either going to, die on the bleachers or die on the field. You might as well go out and play. So you got to go hard especially for our children, right? And I would say one of the best key factors to success is time management. Time. My dad's on here. Hey, Dad, peace and love. Time management is key. And Dr. Ed mentioned some of that, right? Like for me, I like to focus on things where I'm creating myself to be in a position to make $500 an hour, right? So small tasks, hey, I can hire someone to do that, or I can minimize my time it takes me to do that task. I'm also setting the expectations and making your kids a part of the journey. Feel like they're a part of the journey. How do I do that? I sit them down. Listen, Dad's going on a run. I'm going on a run. We're going to be really busy. I'm looking to take our family to another level financially or spiritually, just in our mindset uh, as a family culture. So kind of prepare them and prep them for that. And what I do is on my family meetings once a week, we have a blended family here. So one of the things I do is I talk about, a heavy laser focus on the small wins. And why is this important? Because many of us in society are only looking to celebrate the big wins. But I tell people all the time, small wins create momentum. When a plane gets off the ground, it's going 10 miles an hour, 20, 30, 40, right? And eventually it creates enough velocity to get in the air, momentum, right? That thing is ready to lift off now, you're launched, but it's got to start from the small wins. And many times we don't count those small wins. So I would tell the kids, or I asked them, what was your biggest win for the week? Did you not look at your phone for the first 10 minutes that you woke up in the morning? Did you brush your teeth a little bit longer? Whatever that win is, I want them to be satisfied with that because now they're going to create more wins, going to put them in a place of gratitude. So I think that's really important when we bring them along the process in terms of shaping their mind to understand and what to be thankful for so they can get more what they're thankful for. And also, too, I will also say for women, um, employ a male mentor, especially if you have boys. It's good for them to see a masculine man. We always talk about toxic masculinity, but we never talk about healthy masculinity, right? Because both principles are strong, feminine principle, masculine principle, but together we're definitely strong together. And I would say too, that's going to be really impactful, especially for our boys. I spend a lot of time talking to boys. So with my time that I created for myself, I had that extra time now to get back to the community. Any lady that's on the chat, that's an entrepreneur, busy in your career, and you have sons, definitely send them my way. I'll give them information. I'll be more than happy. And also, I want to say this. I believe that us fathers coming together, like Dr. Michelle Clark said, we got to make this an ongoing topic, an ongoing conversation. And I believe that we need more masterminds like this in our society. I'd be glad, to launch a mastermind with you guys where we have a group of men and hold each other accountable. This is how we become the best version of ourselves as men because you're sharpening your sword around other men. Imagine if Gerald Rogers gets around a lot of these guys that spoke today on this panel. I'd be a way more sharper sword than I am now, right? Steel sharpens steel, iron sharpens iron. So that's all I got. Hope you guys got some value from that.
You're muted, Michelle. We can't
Yep.
hear you.
Yep. I just saw it came up as muted. Yeah. And I muted myself because, okay, y'all, just side note, I get excited and I'd be like, whoa, yes, and all that kind of stuff. I'm the kind of person that you don't really want to take to the theater if you need somebody quiet next to you. Because when I see and hear something good, I really get excited about it. So I was trying to mute myself so that way I can give each and every one of you all the full attention of the audience and not have to hear my commentary in the background being excited about it, as well as my clicking of trying to emphasize and highlight in the chat as well. So, but bottom line, Mr. Rogers, thank you so much for imparting upon that because it is so important. I love how you highlighted, and I'm not going to go too much into it because I want to also give Mr. Thompson an opportunity to weigh in on this. And the fact you talked about employing our male mentors. We don't have to do this alone, ladies. There's mentorship programs out there. All you have to do is Google, find some in your area, reach out to somebody. There's so many resources that are going unutilized. And because they're going unutilized, they're actually going out of business. They're not getting the funding from the government because nobody's utilizing those resources. So if we don't use it, we lose it. So make sure that in your communities that you are looking for what you need. And if you don't have that, and especially coming from the mental health standpoint, one of the things that I do is I help to put people in contact with different resources, right? So I help if they need a wraparound facilitator, if they need CLS, if they need respite services, whatever programs or services that they need. We try to wrap those services around the family with our wraparound program. They need home-based therapy. So whatever those services are that your family needs. So I got to put that little piece in there because sometimes the challenges that we're dealing with, when Dr. Ed talked about, I put in the chat, positive involvement. That's a term that we use. I also am certified as a parent management training, the Oregon model specialist, where I coach parents on how to become better parents when their children exist with more than just run-of-the-mill behavioral problems. And so we talk about positive involvement, and that's spending those times with the children to be there with them and be there for them and encourage them and spend that time with them, because kids don't care how much we make. They don't care. What they care about is the time that we spend with them. Now, of course, as adults, we have to make sure that we are more than balancing our budget, but also having that excess, that surplus, so we can take those family vacations, do the things that we need to do. But the bottom line is, if we just spend 5 extra minutes with our children a day, just to I saw someone in the chat talk about affirmations. If we just affirm that, then we can help them. And that goes again with the confidence and the confidence. Okay, that's my start. I'm sticking to it. Let me go ahead and back out because I want to give Mr. James J.T. Thompson the opportunity to take the floor. You got it. Take it away, sir.
I'm gonna tell anybody in the chat tonight, if you got something from this, you was inspired, you was impacted, put in the chat. Tell you want to run it, you want to run it back. There's a reason why the team is important. The 5 men that showed up tonight, that was invited to this tonight, gave you wisdom and nuggets. And there's a reason why I was nicknamed the closer. So let me give you these nuggets right here. Number 1, keep your faith strong. Understand that any storm that you may go through, if you went through it, you can be brought out of it. Keep focused and understand the end goal. Pouring into your children is the end goal. That creates their legacy. Leading by example in the action that you put into this is what makes it vitally important. Everybody that spoke tonight gave you the keys to being successful in that. And parenting didn't come with a handbook at all. So we had to figure it out. And in figuring it out, you created the genius in order to pour into your kids, pour into your legacy, have impact on your family. Remember that you have the keys and the world in your hand to be able to pour and create the legacy that you want to leave, to impact on your kids. And I'll say this, and I'll leave you with this. Breaking the stigma is the other part of this. Remember this, we are titled with so many things in this life. And I heard depression brought up later, earlier in the show. Let me tell you how I flipped depression and how I talk to my kids and I talk to the people that I work with. You take depression and you flip it. You play Family Feud with it, you play Scrabble with it, and you go with this. I can't and won't be depressed because I will flip it and say, I'm going to press on. Flip the letters of depression and say, I press on, despite what the situation is. Pour that into your families, pour that into your kids, pour that into your life. Be the example of what you want to see in this life. And keep God first in everything. Those are the keys. Appreciate the opportunity, the honor tonight to be a part of this panel.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love that. I first of all, I love play on words. Yes, I press on, flipping the depression around. I love that. That reminds me of a word that I always like to break apart, and that's impossible, which really means I'm possible. So I love that so much, and just leading by example. So, wow, thank you so much, so much for that. This has been an absolute wonderful panel. And I know that we started off, Mr. Bobby Jackson started off, and he clarified it from the perspective of his vertical, but I know he wanted to at least leave a nugget for the ladies to be more specific about for the ladies. So, Mr. Jackson, take it away. What would you like to say about the ladies for the ladies.
Absolutely. Yeah. All the gentlemen did such a phenomenal job. And I thought back and I said, oh, you don't even have to put me up here. I like to see you guys' faces, if that's all right. Helps me stay out of my own head here a little bit. But one thing that I wanted to leave with the ladies is children come through you, but they don't necessarily belong to you. And this is something I share with my wife, and I have to remind myself, it's easy to take ownership of something when you carry it, and you, by, say, the law, have the ability to abort it in certain ways. So there's this ownership of it. And sometimes that ownership can be carried as the child develops. And this ownership over them, or your responsibility for them, can become tyrannical. And this is for the men too. But it's almost like I would hear single mothers oftentimes say, that's my child. And at the end of the day, sure, but you're responsible for that human being. But that human being has their own life. And what I've learned as a husband, that my job is in my home, is to make sure that I balance that equation. So one thing that I want to share with you ladies as well is nurture prevents trauma, pressure produces diamonds. So what the mother's job in many cases that I see in our household is that her job is to nurture them, to keep them from having all these traumas that they experience. It's to protect them. It's to help them. But my job as the father is to apply pressure. My job is to push them, to press them, to prune them. And together, the nurture and the pressure help produce the capacity. And the capacity is what the child needs to survive. Because the last thing that I'll share with you is the favorite aunt syndrome. So the favorite aunt syndrome is when the kids go to their aunt's house and they love their auntie's house. They love their auntie's house because their aunt allows them to do whatever they want to do. The favorite uncle allows them to do whatever they want to do. As a parent, from my perspective, and for the mothers out there, your job, as far as I have found it effective, is to equip the child with the tools they need to become men and women that can stand on their own two, think for themselves, operate in a world that is fundamentally designed to oppress and succeed. If they can do that, you've equipped them. The last thing is this: your children will be children far less amount of time than they will be adults. They're kids for 18 years. They're adults, God willing, for 50. So the question really is, do you want to baby or hold, coddle, and protect them and give them everything they want, say for the 18 years of their life, and then they go off incapable, incompetent, and not able to stand on their own too? Or do you want to create an environment of pressure, nurture, failure, acceptance, reality, integrity, and, dare I say, rough them up? Because you can build them back up in the comfort of your own home a lot more effectively than life will allow them to rebuild themselves in the tyranny of a nation. So that's one thing that I really want to leave with you ladies, is that they come through you, but don't belong to you. And if you can equip them to live life, you will be doing them a great justice.
Okay, I had to take myself back off mute. They come through us. But say that again, Bobby. I want to make sure to get that exactly correct.
They come through you, but they do not belong to you.
That's it. That's it. And I saw M say that, that she used to say that, and you know what, me too. My baby, this is my child, my son, my daughter, my this, my that. And they're gifts to us from God. They're not ours to keep. They're ours to help to shape and make them productive members, valuable members of society. to pass it forward. Back to that ripple effect and what we do and how we shape. And this has just been, let me tell you something. If you all have found value, I'm already seeing hand claps in there. I saw that part in there. We're seeing hearts and fire and flames, comments that's supporting the conversation. If you all found value in this conversation, show it by passing this forward. What we've been able to do tonight is put together, and I told you all it was going to be epic. I told you it was going to be epic. Put together this panel of fabulous fathers who are going to impart information upon us that will definitely 100% change the trajectory of our parenting as men and women. So, as women, we can listen to the fathers. Some of us didn't have fathers, some of us don't have fathers for our children. I'm blessed that I still have my father alive today in his 80s. The father of my children, even though we're together, we still co-parent. But a lot of people don't share that story, and they have to go outside themselves. And I love when M talked about how stop saying that you both the mother and the father. I hear that too. No, you're not. No, you're not. Even if you did it through they used to call it through in vitro, you're still not the mother and the father. There still was another process that went a part of that to make that child. So here's the bottom line. If you all found value in today, show it through sharing. Show it through keeping this dialogue going. Take Mr. Rogers up on his proposal to have a mastermind, men. Have a mastermind and take this to the streets, y'all. Take this to the streets. Be a part of this conversation. Join the conversation. Facilitate the conversation. And I think it was Dr. LaShonda that said, thank you, to me for facilitating this. I thank the gentlemen for taking time out of their busy schedules, taking time to speak with us and imparting this value that was so invaluable, each and every one of you. So thank you so much again. Thank you, James J.T. Thompson. Thank you so much for your contribution. Thank you so much, Dr. Ed C., for your contribution. Thank you so much, Gerald Rogers, for your contribution. Thank you so much, Bobby Jackson, for your contribution. And thank you so much also as well to David M. Pinkston, who had to leave. Again, leading by example, y'all, had to go to his son's game because he's a man of his word. He told his son that he was going to be there. So we're about to sign off, you all. And I thank you all so much. Gentlemen, hang to the back. I'm going to go ahead and close this out, but hang to the back. And while I just impart just really, really quickly to the ladies and also the men that's in the house. And now I'm trying to figure out how to get myself back on solo, y'all, because the stuff is the numbers are covering up. We have the numbers, y'all, and they are covering up my ability to put in here for a solo. So I'm just going to put you guys to the back. One quick second here. I don't want to remove you. And if I can't, that's fine as well. Let's see if we can get this back on solo. There we go. Bada boom, bada bing. All right, you all. So I want to thank everybody. Again, okay, so you all, here's a quick thing. You can facilitate. You don't have to be tech savvy in order to help someone, right? So you just get out there and do it. Just get out there and do it. And what we did tonight, I told you all. I told you it was going to be epic. I was not playing. It wasn't hyperbole. It wasn't hyping anybody up. I knew the caliber of men that we had that were going to grace this virtual stage, grace this podcast. Never done before. Never done before. This is the inaugural event, you all, for Dr. Clark. And what better way to do that than to have these fabulous 5 men who took the time out of their busy schedules to impart upon us information that is so transformative. If we utilize it, it makes no sense in the world to get these jaw-dropping, nugget-fulfilling information and not do anything with it. So my challenge to you, as we close out, my challenge to you is to take the information that you heard tonight and what is one thing? I'm not asking 10 things, just what is the one thing that you're going to do based off of what you learned tonight that you can add, change, subtract, whatever. What is something that you can do to pivot and turn up your parenthood? So if you're a father, your fatherhood, motherhood, what can you do? What's that one nugget that you got tonight that's going to make the difference and that you're going to do something with it? I'd love to hear about it. So drop it in the chat even after this broadcast is over. Drop it in the chat. You can also send it to me. You know where to find me on social medias. You can, wherever you're watching me at right now, DM me, whatever. But I would love to hear what you're going to do, how you're going to take this information and turn it from just information and education to transformation. Because again, we can all be motivated, the rah-rah, and after the dust clears, status quo. This is not that type of show. This is not a status quo show. So make sure that whatever you learn tonight, take that and turn it into transformation, as well as paying it forward, reaching back everywhere you need to go and help somebody, tell somebody about what happened tonight. If there was a story that touched you, tell them about that story. Tell them about the story about how Dr. Ed was able to help his son to win a trophy. You know, tell that story about how these fathers took time out of their schedule, how they prioritized, how they were able to impart values and morals and principles amongst their children, leaving a legacy, telling what a legacy even is. What is that one thing for you? What was that one thing for you that said, you know, that's my aha moment? Because I know y'all had them. It's all right. I'm not going to just continue to drill this in, but I'm not trying to impress you all with this. I want to impress upon you that together, each one of us, when we come together, we're able to do more. But it does start, I shouldn't say but, and it does start, because I want to negate what I said before that. And it does start with just one, with us. It starts here. So you be the difference. You make the difference. I love you all to life just because you are who you are. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. We're going to have a fast break at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, as we do each Monday through Friday. We took a break today in honor of Father's Day that's around the corner. So make sure you honor your fathers, whether they're living and still with us or not, whether you knew them or not. They still were a part of you existing today. So show love. For whatever they were, whoever they are, doesn't matter. Show love. Because love is what's going to make the determining factor. I heard that here tonight as well. Love. So, all right, you all, I love you to life just because you are. My name is Michele D. Clark. I am the mindset management coach for professional women with Lift Nation, where we empower you, the professional woman, to live inspired, free, and transformed. Take care. God bless. And I will see you all tomorrow evening. Keep the conversation going. Make a difference. Be the difference. Take care.